Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're just going to go over some of the watch dates that are coming up this spring and summer, and then we're also going to look at some of the weird coincidences that are surrounding this June watch date. So, this month, I'm sure you already know about the lunar eclipse that's coming up on April 15th. Um, it's the first of four eclipses this year, and they're all landing on the ancient biblical appointed times. And April 15th is Passover on the standard Jewish calendar. And then 2 weeks later, on April 29th, we'll have a solar eclipse on the first day of the ancient calendar first month. So most people don't know about that. So for more information, you can check out the link below called Ancient Calendar Appointments for the Future. So that's what's coming up this month. And the significant thing about this year in 2014 is that all four eclipses are occurring on the appointed time. So the lunar eclipses are occurring on the standard calendar Passover and Sukkot, and the solar eclipses are occurring on the first days of the first and seventh month on the ancient calendar. So 2014 seems more significant than 2015, at least to me, because all four eclipses are landing on the appointed times this year, whereas in 2015 only three of them do. So, contrary to what most people are saying, the first solar and lunar eclipses of 2015 right here, they're not on both the first day of Abib and Passover. It's either the solar eclipse on Abib 1 or the lunar eclipse on Passover, but it's not both. So I explained that in the video link below called 2014 Appointed Times. So I'm not sure why nobody else has noticed that, but there's plenty of information on the web about the tetrads that are starting this year, how rare they are, and how they indicate that a significant event will occur soon. So I'm sure you've heard about that. So we have that going on. And the appointed times each year are always watch dates. And the first month on the ancient calendar is in May this year, with the first appointed time of Passover occurring on the May 12th through 14th window. And I'm personally also watching May 1st and May 5th because I had dreams this year about May 1st and Cinco de Mayo. So for some reason, my dreams keep happening after the fact, as I'm sure you've noticed. And if you're unfamiliar with that, you can check out the playlist on my channel, my main channel page called Proof the Visions Come True, which has, I think, 60 videos in it now, of dreams that were uploaded before they actually happened. So that's why I'm watching those two dates, just because I dreamt about it for some reason. Um, And I mean, that's not really about me. I personally don't know what will or will not happen. I can only speculate, but that's why it's a watch date and not a prediction. So sometimes these dates in the dreams play out years later, also. That's the other thing. So it might not even be this year. But um, I'm going to pay attention to those two dates, May 1st and May 5th, just for that reason. And then also May 5th falls within the 40-day window prior to the flood date alignment in June, which is pretty major. So that may or may not be significant. I'll go into that a little bit later. And then next, I'm sure you're aware that the Pope will be in Israel from May 24th through the 26th during Memorial Day, so that's something to watch. And then we have the G8 summit coming up the following week. And it was originally scheduled to occur in Russia, but they moved it to Belgium because they recently banned Russia from the G8. So that's significant as well, I think, because I remember talking about this last year, just looking at the body language of Obama and Putin during the G8 last year. I could just tell something was wrong, and unfortunately, it looks like that's becoming clear this year. And it's concerning because I think Putin is fully capable of doing something disastrous if he chose to do so. I'm not saying that he would choose to do something like that, but it does kind of seem like they're pushing him. And when I say they, I'm referring to the powers behind the UN. It looked to me like they started putting pressure on Putin last year. And maybe that's why the events of the past year have played out the way they have. I don't know, but um, I just think banning Russia from from the G8 and putting sanctions on them is just fueling the fire of potential war, and that's disturbing because I'm sure they know exactly what they're doing and what the potential outcome will be. Um, but the other kind of bizarre thing is the G8 lands exactly on the standard Jewish feast of Shavuot this year. So you can see here on Shabbat.org that Shavuot occurs on June 4th and 5th, which is the exact date of the G8. And so that kind of starts the major watch period, that G8 summit at the beginning of June. And exactly exactly 7 days after the G8 summit on Shavuot, the Noah's flood alignment starts from June 11th until June 15th. So the alignment actually occurs on the 13th, but the window starts on the 11th. So June 11th through the 13th is the final end of the flood timeline that started in 2008. So for more information on this, you can check out the link in the description below. I think it's called Noah's Flood Timeline. But the end of that timeline aligns in 2014 with the ancient calendar 17th day of the second month, which according to Genesis 7 was the date the fountains of the great deep were broken up and the windows of heaven were opened. So that window is from the 13th until the 15th, that window of the 17th day of the second month. That's from the 13th to the 15th. So if you want to understand why these dates are 3-day windows, you can check out the link below this video. It's called Ancient Calendar, and that explains it. But also this flood alignment watch is right in the middle of the 4 solar and lunar eclipses, which are landing on the appointed times this year. So maybe just an interesting coincidence or something to watch at the very least, and at the most maybe a strong warning. I don't know. But here's another pattern that I noticed that I want to share with you. In Genesis 7, it says to enter the ark 7 days before the flood. So, and on this calendar, you can see 7 days before this flood alignment, we have the Feast of Shavuot. And Shavuot represents the gathering of the wheat harvest, which is a reference to the escape. And the texts strongly indicate that the escape is going to happen very soon. So for more information on that, you can check out the link in the description below this video called Escape from the Serpent, because it goes into detail on that. But that standard Shavuot wheat harvest is occurring exactly 7 days before this flood alignment starts, so that's kind of interesting. And this flood alignment thing, all of this is only happening in 2014. As far as I know, this flood alignment is something that's never occurred before and may not ever occur again. So I just think it's interesting that Genesis 7 says, enter into the ark 7 days before the flood, which we see occurring right here. And the entry into the ark, of course, also represents the escape. So really we have 3 alignments occurring here. The 17th day of the true second month, lining up with the exact conception date in the quote-unquote 600th year, which is exactly 7 days after the wheat harvest. And then here's the next point. 7 days after the alignment date on the 13th, we land on June 20th, and then 7 more days lines up with the multitude or Gentile trumpets. So in Genesis 8, it says, at the end of 40 days, Noah sent forth a raven and a dove from the ark and waited 7 days, then 7 more days, until the dove found land or found rest. So that would line up with multitude trumpets right here if we see a significant event 40 days prior to this date right here. And that happens to be May 4th through the 6th, which is another minor watch because of that dream that I had. So, I mean, I realize the 40 days appears to refer to the 40 days after the flood or the 40 days of rain, not before. But the reason I look at this anyway is because what we've found in the last few years is that very significant events are occurring on the layering of these timelines, also viewed multidimensionally. So, for example, 40 days after and 40 days before, we could have an event. That's what we've seen in the past. So, that's why I have that on there. Okay, so if you're not familiar with what multitude trumpets is, some of you may remember the alignment that occurred in January this year of the new moon of the true 10th month occurring exactly on January 1st. So that's rare. And I talk about that in my video. I think it's called January Convergence 2014. I'll try to remember to link it below, but you can find it in my videos from January if it's not there. Anyway, there are all these references in the biblical text to the 10th month being the time of the escape, but then there are also references to the first month and the 7th month. And as we just talked about, there's even that reference to Shavuot, which is in the 3rd month. So what it boils down to is we don't know exactly when the escape will occur, but we can watch these events line up to at least encourage one another, which is what I'm doing here. I mean, that's why I don't stop, because it's encouraging to those who are hoping and praying for the escape. And at the same time, I guess it's a warning to others. So I realize it can be upsetting for some people, but personally, I share this with you as encouragement. So January 2014 was a convergence of the first month of the Gentile calendar and the 10th month of the ancient biblical calendar. And that's really, really rare. So this multitude unleavened bread slash tabernacles represents the convergence of the two calendars. And it also represents the northern and the southern hemisphere, as I'll talk about in a minute. So the 14th day of the first month is Passover, and the 14th or the 21st is unleavened bread. So this marks what may be considered the Gentile Passover. You know, on the Gregorian calendar, it's the first month, 14th day of the first month. So it could be considered the Gentile Passover and unleavened bread here. And since the Greek word for Gentile also means multitude, and we know the multitude of all tribes and nations is who will escape, that's why we were watching this multitude Passover unleavened bread, which incidentally is the same day the Feast of Tabernacles would be observed, because the first month mirrors the 7th month right here. And that day that we're observing unleavened bread in the first month, they're in the southern hemisphere, they're observing tabernacles. And I've talked about this in some of my other videos that are linked below. Specifically, I think I talk about this in the video called Ancient Calendar. But because the southern hemisphere is having fall when the northern hemisphere is observing spring, the calendars are opposite. So, so that's why you see on here both unleavened bread and tabernacles, because we know that the first month is also the 7th month in the southern hemisphere. Okay. And then also this timeline right here lined up with the 1260 day mark prior to the 70th Shavuot in 2017. And right in the middle of that alignment right there, lightning struck the Christ statue in Rio de Janeiro on January 16th. And that that was significant because I'd had all these visions of lightning striking the hand of Jesus, and I was having those visions of him standing exactly in this position with his arms outstretched like this. So it's kind of something that um, there are all these puzzle pieces that kind of fit together, and if you're not aware of all the different pieces of the puzzle, it kind of doesn't really mean anything, but it does if you know, if you've been paying attention, if you've been quote unquote watching all this time. So that was significant that that happened right there. Um, so that 1260-day period that ends on the 70th Shavuot right here in 2017, um, this 1260-day period, and then also on this chart right here ends in 2017. Um, we now know 2017 is not the end because we're told the escape will occur 1260 days before that. So that's why we're watching January of 2014. So we know 2017 now is not the end. So on the timeline found in the book of Daniel that began in 1947, we now know that if this is what Gabriel was referring to, then it must be completed by 2024. So there's no possible end date after 2024 on this timeline unless there's another decree that goes forth to restore Jerusalem. So 2024 marks the absolute maximum this particular timeline can go. And that's because the word Shabuah means three things. It means plus 7 times 7 and Shavuot. So 2017 was 70 Shavuots, so that's the first meaning of that word. And we know that's not it because the escape did not occur 1260 days before that. The second meaning of the word Shavuot is times 7, but we know that's not it as well because that's 490 years, which is more than a generation. So Jesus said it'll be within one generation from the time the fig tree buds, and the fig tree is Israel. Um, Israel becoming a nation is what that could represent. So the final option, which is the third meaning of that word, is 70 plus 7. And 70 plus 7 would end in 2024. So that's the final option right there. So between now and 2024, we have a 7-year period that we're in right now. And then we have a 7-year period that's starting that could start this year in 2014 and end in 2020, which is also the 1335th year from the setting up of the Dome of the Rock in 685, which also occurred 1290 years after the sacrifice and oblation ceased in 606, or were interrupted, excuse me, in 606 BC. So 2020, that's a potential fulfillment of Daniel 12:12, or at least another one, because we know we had one fulfillment here. So blessed are those who come to the 1335 days, or blessed are those who come to the 1335th year. So 2014 is a possibility. It may start the final tribulation period, but we also have a significant 7-year period starting in 2017 as well, right here, that ends in 2024. So that's another possibility as well. But as of now, this 7-year period that we're in right now still stands confirmed by the text. It has not been refuted. So everything the text said would happen has happened so far in this 7-year period that we're in right now. So even if the flood event that Daniel 9:26 describes, even if that doesn't happen in 2014 at the end of this 1260-year period right here, even if that doesn't happen in 2014, there's still the possibility that it will occur in 2015 or 2016 because Daniel 9 says that the desolation of the city and the hallowed thing will occur in the midst of the week, and that ends right here in 2016. So, and that desolation, it says, is by a flood. So, for more information on that, I have links below that you can check out in the description box of this video. Um, so I guess what a lot of people don't understand, or they, something I hear this a lot from people, is that they're misunderstanding um, how long the tribulation period is. So the texts do not actually say that Daniel's 7-year period is the tribulation. That is a theory that was created a long time ago, and the doctrines have been founded upon that theory, and the theory is valid, but that's not actually what the texts say. The texts tell us that the tribulation period described in Matthew 24, Daniel 12, and Revelation 12, it tells us that period lasts for 1260 days, which is actually 3.5 years, not 7 years. So Daniel 9:27 does not say that the 1 week, or the one Shavuot is the Hebrew term, is the tribulation period. It does not say that. In fact, because the word Shavuot has 3 different meanings, the one Shavuot of the covenant can also literally mean one Shavuot, or one period of 7 actual weeks, possibly from Passover to Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks. So, I mean, I just wanted to point that out because there's still a lot of people who are misunderstanding what I'm saying. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not saying we're in the Great Tribulation period. We're not in the Great Tribulation period yet. What I've been saying is that it appears we are in the middle of Daniel's 7 years, and that's different. So the tribulation period of 1260 days has not started yet. And we know that because we're told the escape precedes it, and the escape has not happened yet. But it may start in 2014. We don't know exactly when, but the indications are that it'll start sometime before the 2024 cutoff. So this isn't exact because I don't know. I haven't looked yet to see when true Shavuot will occur in 2024, but it always occurs before July. So that basically means the escape would have to occur at the very, very, very latest by January 2021. And I mean, that's the very latest that these events can continue to play out as they have. And that's only if this is the actual series of events Gabriel was referring to in the book of Daniel. So if these are not the events Gabriel was referring to, then there won't be any desolation of the city between now and 2016. So we should know by 2017 whether or not this is it. Because like I said, if there's no desolation of the city and the hallowed thing, I hate saying that, but I mean, it's just pure logic. I'm just, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. All we can do is watch. But all of the events pointing to the start of the tribulation also point to our escape, like this sign right here. The Revelation 12 sign that occurred in 2012. I also have a video on that linked below if you want to check it out. But that sign did occur October 16, 2012, and that points directly to the escape. So that's good news for some, and I guess bad news for others. So that's why there's so much strife over this information, I guess. It's encouraging for those who will be saved, but it's a warning to those who won't at the same time. So this multitude Passover here was marked with significant alignment. So we're going to watch the rest of the appointed times on this Gentile or multitude calendar this year just to see what happens. And I mean, the reason we do that is because we've seen significant events occur on the dates from these layered, multi-dimensional biblical timelines in recent years. So, for example, those of you that have been on my channel for the last year or so will remember that February 11th was a significant date on this chart here that we were watching prior to the Pope's unforeseen resignation. So that was based on layered biblical timelines that started on the scriptural fulfillments in 2012. So, um, and we were also watching some of these dates in here prior to when they happened, like the March 20th, specifically the 3 day window from March 20th or the 22nd. We were watching that long before Obama's itinerary came out. Um, so, I mean, this is just a few things. This is not a complete list. I mean, if you really want to understand, um, you know, that people are actually predicting these events. For example, Anna predicted this event right here, and I have her video in my playlist, Proof YouTubers Accurately Predict the Future. I think she's like the first video in that because she actually did predict this date. She uploaded a video prior to this event happening saying, okay, look at these dates right here, these two dates right here. And it ended up being an exact fulfillment of Daniel 12:11 and Daniel 12:12. So, when people are able to predict ev events prior to their occurrence, and not just one person, but many different people are able to predict these events before they happen, that's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. The accidents don't work that way. So I can't say I fully understand why these events play out like they do. I can only tell you that they definitely do play out. So, so in short, that's why we are looking at these dates on the multitude calendar this year. Um, because with these layered timelines, we see things happening. That's just for whatever reason, it does turn out that way sometimes. So, because uh, the Gregorian or Gentile calendar converged with the ancient calendar on January 1st this year because of the new moon right here, and that was the tenth month on the ancient calendar. And because of that, we know that this may be significant. So that's why we're watching this multitude calendar this year. So we know that the next appointed time on the calendar is Shavuot. So we're going to look at multitude Shavuot. So we're going to look at from here, and then we'll just count the days, count down the omers until we get to multitude Shavuot, which landed right here on March 5th, which turned out to be Ash Wednesday, which may be something the Catholics do intentionally every year. I'm not really sure, but that's also when the talks began face to face between US and Russia over the Ukraine crisis. So that was March 5th. So that might be noteworthy. I don't know. Um, so because of that, we're going to continue to watch these alignment dates of the multitude or Gentile calendar feast days. So the next appointed time we know after Shavuot is trumpets. So on the multitude calendar this year, the first day of the seventh month, which is trumpets, occurs right here on June 27th, which is exactly 7 days and 7 more days after the flood alignment date right here. And it's kind of an interesting pattern in here because then we have this 21st day right here landing on July 4th, Independence Day, which is kind of a flag day. And true Flag Day we know occurs on June 14th, which is Noah's flood alignment date this year. And so we have the flood alignment on Flag Day, then 7 days and 7 more days. Genesis, the dove finds rest on multitude trumpets kind of thing. And then we have true Shavuot right here, the wheat harvest, and the next day, Independence Day, which is the 21st day from the flood alignment, which is another significant number in the text. And then it's also the day before multitude atonement. So the reason why this Flag Day thing is significant is because we've had these unusual coincidences in recent years having to do with not only Flag Day, but the U.S. flag itself. So to start, um, June 13th and 14th, which is Flag Day, June 14th is Flag Day, um, in 1948 was the first Shavuot on our timeline when the UN declared Israel a nation. So right here on the standard Jewish calendar, June 13th and 14th, 1948, it started the timeline of fulfillments that we've seen in in Daniel 9. So right here again, started right here. That was the first Shavuot. And that occurred on Flag Day. Then Obama's birth was the second fulfillment on that timeline, and that occurred August 4th, 1961. That's when he was born. And that was the 14th Shavuot, or that was in the year of the 14th Shavuot, or the 7 plus 7th Shavuot. So if you want more information on that, you can check the link in the description called Daniel 9 Fulfilled in 2009. I go into more depth on that. But on Obama's birthday in 2012, the U.S. flag was dropped on cue at the London Olympics. So I'll try to remember to leave a link in the description below of the video with the song playing and everything. But this was absolutely not an accident, as most people might think, because it dropped exactly on the lyric, quote unquote, and our flag was still there. I mean, that's exactly when the flag dropped. So from the Star Spangled Banner. So I mean, I really don't think it was a coincidence. I'll leave the video below so you can check that out and watch for yourself that it fell right on cue. So right here on Obama's birthday, just 2 days after the Idol of Terror, Daniel 12:11, was placed in the Hallowed Fortress. And I mean, you can see I have a video on that as well called Daniel 12 Fulfilled in 2012. But right here on Obama's birthday in 2012, the U.S. flag was dropped on cue with the song lyrics, "Our flag was still there." And then in 2013, true Shavuot occurred on Flag Day. So the wheat harvest right here last year in June 2013 occurred on Flag Day, and also this year it's Noah's flood date on Flag Day again. So just an interesting coincidence maybe, I don't know. But then on February 7th at the Russian Winter Olympics, one of the 5 Olympic rings failed to open twice, once in the opening ceremony and then again in the closing ceremony. And the ring that didn't open was the red ring, which, according to the official Olympic handbook, represents America. So some may think this was only an accident, but considering other events such as the dropping of the American flag on cue at the London Summer Olympics, then Obama not showing up for the Russian Olympics, I don't know, I'm not so sure it was an accident. And I can't help but wonder if it's a message or maybe even a warning of some kind. So that event seems to tie in with the dropping of the U.S. flag on Obama's birthday in 2012. And it also ties in with these next watch dates coming up in June. So June 11th through the 13th, which is the end of Noah's timeline beginning in 2008. And that lines up with the actual date of Noah's flood, which is the true 17th day of the second month, which lands on Flag Day. And also the axis shift patterns are pointing to June 14th, Flag Day of 2014. So As you can see on this chart right here, we have June 14th, 397 days. We have the 397-day thing that keeps repeating. So for more information on this, I have a video called, I think it's called Axis Shift Patterns. I'll try to remember to link it below this video so you can check that out if you want. So we have all these, just bizarre coincidences, maybe. I don't really know what to call it, but, and I personally do not know what will or will not happen on these dates, but June is definitely a high watch period. And as we've seen in the past, there are significant events always happening on the watch dates. So that's why I say we should pay attention to this time period right here in June because it seems highly significant. But I mean, please believe me, if things were not happening on these watch dates every year for the past 3 years, I would stop watching these patterns. So, I mean, I always say if nothing happens at all, then good. I can stop doing this. I can stop watching these dates. But, like I said, things keep happening. So we'll just have to wait and see. But again, the high watch is starting here in June and going all through the month of June here. And then also through July as well, because the 40 days after the flood alignment ends down here in July. And we also have the multitude Sukkot happening in July as well. So that's just a watch period. So personally, I'm watching for the escape, as always, and also the flood in the midst of the week, which is possibly an asteroid strike, possibly in the Atlantic Ocean. And that's based on the biblical research that I've been doing. So you can check out the links below for more information on why I say that. But the events on the watch dates are not always what we expect. The events that play out on these dates that we're watching, it's not always what we expect it's going to be. So we'll just have to wait and see. So I hope you guys are doing well, and I just want to say thank you so much to those of you that are supporting this work because I truly, truly could not do this without you. So thank you so much. You're making this possible. You're making it possible for this information to get out to everyone else. I just want to say thank you, thank you. I never know how much longer I can continue doing this, but as long as you guys are supporting me, then I'm going to continue to do this. So, if you have any questions or there's more information you want to check out, I have a bunch of links below this video in the description box, and I also have compiled a lot of this information into a PDF file on my website, indigoflower.net. So you can check that out as well. So I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.